Guess what? We came in live. Literally. Hi, everybody. We're live. Amy and I are having technical difficulties. It just spun and spun. It wouldn't let us start. And then we both left our browsers completely, logged back in, and we came in live. We didn't even get to tap a button that said we're live. So welcome to Friday Leadership Lunch Chat, extemporaneous startup. We're here to talk about leadership in the profession and in our lives. I'm Jennifer Wilson, and with me today is Amy Vetter. And we thought today we'd talk about leadership communication pitfalls. And so things, kind of mistakes or missteps we see commonly or that we ourselves have made to just see if maybe we could help each other avoid them in the future. But before we do that, I know that I had my second COVID-19 shot. I had the Pfizer vaccine 2 days ago. And so I'm super happy to begin the 14-day journey to fully vaccinated. And I know, Amy, you had your second shot also, yes?
Yes.
So I think we both want to encourage, first, I know I'm grateful for having the opportunity to get the shot and super grateful for the scientists and all the people that made it happen. I was in awe and really amazed by the military and the people that were there in the shot giving process. It was quite something. It's just amazing what our country's doing to try to get us past this pandemic and what is happening globally. I also just want to encourage everybody, if you're medically able, to get your shot. Now that it's open in most communities, the faster we can get vaccinated and past that 14 days, hopefully the cases will drop and we can get on to our getting back together and things like that, carefully, of course. Anyway, so I don't know if you have anything that you want to say about your vaccination process before we get into leadership communication, Amy?
No, I agree. And I think also just the, sorry, I was echoing there. I could hear myself echoing.
I can't hear an echo.
Oh, okay, good. So, I know besides what we do as consultants, I'm also a small business owner and, owning a yoga studio. So the impact to small business owners, besides individuals, but this is something that you cannot foresee. So, I know my attitude's been anything we can do to just get the economy and saving small businesses is so important right now. And also just I think having grace with the small businesses as well. Like, this is so hard on small business owners. They don't have budgets of big corporations. Cash is such a big deal for small business owners. And each month is, another month you are able to stay open during this whole time. And to really give back where you can to small business right now, I think is just so important. I know for my small business, we're going to have a donation festival in May,
cool.
just to try to get creative with ways that we can bring in some more money to help us till we get back to a point where these restrictions get lifted off of businesses. And, I'm still limited in capacity of, who can come in. So even though things might feel like, oh, I got the vaccine, like, don't forget what people have done, like how many businesses you've seen close during this time, and the ones that still exist, how you can help. I think is just a really important thing right now.
Yeah. Well, and I went yesterday with my daughter last evening to our local party store that will remain unnamed, but it's going out of business. It sells balloons. I mean, it's been my go-to place for graduations and, any birthdays, wedding, Halloween, whatever it is, all my class parties for all my kids, all the years of room parenting, and it's going out of business completely.
Mm-hmm.
And why? Because nobody had a party in 15 months with COVID, right. And nobody bought party supplies. And it's heartbreaking, honestly. It's the only one in our city. And now I'm going to have to travel to get those kinds of things. Maybe Amazon will bring them to me, and maybe Amazon already took a bite out of their business before the pandemic, but it's so sad.
Yeah.
And we're going to see more of that. I think, we're going to, and so I agree with you, buy local. Let's keep eating to-go food from restaurants and pay servers and all those people that are struggling. We do have to really keep at it, I think, because this pandemic is dragging on. And there is some kind of scary news, like that news out of India. All those people getting, testing positive or contracting COVID in one day is nuts. And so we don't know what the variants are going to be and that sort of stuff. So we have to continue to, operate pandemically and be safe, get vaccinated, and then try to help our local small businesses.
Yeah.
Try to keep them going. And so maybe not buying from Amazon necessarily as much. I love Amazon, by the way. And they're on speed dial in my life, but I buy vitamins and all kinds of stuff from them. And I'm trying to go to my local grocery store for some of that stuff, because I know that there's different folks hurting. So I love that. Yeah. That reminder. Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's talk about leadership communication missteps that we might make. And one of the reasons that we thought this was a good idea is that there are lots of different communications happening right now as people are emerging in our accounting profession from different busy seasons, or preparing to emerge from different busier periods, and starting to communicate like, here's what's coming next, and here's what's happening this summer, and also maybe making some staffing changes, or doing some organizational shifts, or preparing to to perhaps have some folks not work here anymore that didn't work out, during the busier periods. There's all kinds of change that starts to happen right now, usually. And one of the things we see leaders do often when making that change is they're so busy focused on the change and communicating it to the people directly affected that they don't back up and stop and say, now, who needs to know about this change and in what order? And what I always worry about is that we're not communicating to our leaders, senior leaders, if you will, in the business, at least at the same time as we're communicating to others, or preferably ahead of time. And so I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, we have someone on our team that's not performing, and they're at a mid-level or something in our department, and we're going to make a change with that person, and we're going to tell them it's not working out and have them not work here anymore. So we're thinking, gosh, I need to communicate with them. And I obviously need to coordinate with human resources. And I obviously need to maybe talk to our outside labor counsel. And if we're going to cut a severance check, I'm going to talk to somebody in finance, not everybody, but somebody. And we're going to keep it tight. IT needs to know. Okay, so I'm thinking about that. But I'm not thinking, hey, after this is done, the leaders in my department are going to get asked by the other team members, hey, what happened? And there may be people in other departments that hear about it, and they're going to say, where's so-and-so? What happened there? And while we're not going to give gory details as to why we made the change, what we want to do as leaders is avoid not telling our partners, principals, and operational leaders about changes we're making and preparing them for the questions that are going to come. We have to tell them in advance. Maybe it's 10 minutes in advance of the meeting with that person, but they have something in their inbox with anticipated questions and the answers we'd like them to give, so they feel informed and they feel prepared. And the bigger the change, or the more it might rock the world of clients or staff or whoever whatever that change is you're going to execute, getting those partners, principals, and operational leaders prepared to handle all the objections, inquiries, concerns. If you do not do that, your change looks kind of half-cocked or something. It looks like it didn't quite get planned and prepared properly. And I'll use an example where we might let somebody go at the mid-level. We don't tell anybody. Well, then let's say it's in the audit department, and we let go of a senior manager in audit, and we don't tell anybody of the partners. And I'm another senior manager in audit, and I want to understand, is this a layoff? Are we having a staff reduction? What's going on here? And I go to the partner that wasn't you that made the decision, but another partner that I work with closely, and I say, hey, what happened? I heard that senior manager was, walked out today or asked to leave. And you as a partner in that department say, I don't know, I'm finding out when you're finding out. I don't know, I got the email the same time you did. That just makes me think, wow, either this just feels like it's not well thought through. And sometimes that's the nicest thing the partner who didn't get the email might say. Instead, they might be not on board and say, I don't know what these people are doing. I don't get it at all. I disagree with that move. They could actually step on the wrong side of leadership and sort of unempower and be negative if we don't bring them in and make sure they feel well communicated and included. So I just wanted to point that out because I think it's an often missed step. And it makes the other leaders in your organization feel like they're chasing information, and it's awkward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think there's a couple protocol things to think about with that is one from the staff, the coworker level, that gets ignored a lot to talk about. And second is this degree of the termination. So is the termination like this person cannot work with us? They have, their skill set's not good or so forth, or do they have a good skill set? They're in the wrong spot, and give people the opportunity to know, is there anyone that could use this person in their department before you let them go? Because I think some of that causes the angst is, I thought they could have done a job in my department really well, and I've always enjoyed working with them. It could be, just that there's just not a good fit between that leader and that person. And I say degree of severity. I mean, obviously there's some where it's like, yes, you need to terminate them. There's no redeeming skill set, but sometimes there is a path for people, and it's not just the out decision. And so I think just respecting your peers that are leaders too, to give them the heads up of like, I am, having some struggles with this person, not sure their skill set fits what their job description is, but these are the strengths that I see in this person. And with the right leader, they might do well in another department. So giving that opportunity. The second is what I see is a lot of kind of ignoring the staff when this stuff happens. And, the thing about communication is just because you don't do it doesn't mean it's not happening.
For sure.
So you're going to create a lot more unproductive time to not address the issue, right? Because then everyone's going to be talking about it, and they'll fill in the gap of their own story of why that person is no longer there. And then, what I've seen with this whole pandemic, the secondary thing is the staff going, I can't take on more work. So what's the backup plan? And immediately what starts happening is that person that's gone, their work is being spread to people that are already overworked. And then it just creates more people leaving. And you can't stop the, this leakage that's starting to happen and this culture shift downturn, instead of addressing and saying, look, this is our transition plan. And I'll answer what I can answer, but obviously, I can't answer everything, but this is what we've discussed. This is the work that is open. We want to look at your workload, see what fits, what doesn't fit, and just realize this is temporary. Or, give them some, because at the end of the day, everyone is the what's in it for me. At a certain point, if my life is going to get worse by your decision, then I need to make a decision about my life. And that's what you're putting at risk by not communicating.
So in the absence of information, people make up their own, and it's self-interested and often negative, right? So agreed 100% with that. We have to fill that void with the right messages. And to think that when someone leaves, whether they quit or whether we've asked them to leave, to think that we don't need to communicate to anybody about that, or that by communicating it's negative. Some people are like, gosh, I don't want to tell people that she quit, so I'll just be silent. Well, that's perfect. That's going to make a mess, because you don't tell anybody that she left, and then her clients are calling and nobody knows who's supposed to handle it. And then also they're looking for her, and they find out she's gone because she's not on the email distribution list anymore, or she's not available in chat on Teams. She disappeared off Teams, then they're thinking, wow, what is this firm or company hiding?
Mm-hmm.
And, why weren't they straighter about this? And if the work kind of comes to me sideways or accidentally, it says to me, hey, you must not care much about me, or must not think much about me, because you're letting this weird, cascade of work come to me in this sideways manner, instead of making sure I could handle it. Right. Or talking to me up front about, well, hey, she's leaving. Let's go through a transition plan and discuss which of her clients you could step in on, including me as part of the solution, instead of just sort of letting me be a collateral damage or something.
Right.
And so, it either makes me feel like you respect me and value my input and want to make sure that I'm not hurt by this, or it makes me feel like you completely forgot me or don't care. Those would be my interpretations, perhaps. And like I said, people interpret in silence kind of negatively. So anyway, I think that's a really good example, Amy, and we see it all the time. We hear all the time that firm leaders do not acknowledge people leaving, and they don't do it because they think it's negative, but it's more negative not to. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Or they take it as a you against them, or, and instead of it just being the right transition or course for that person, for the firm as well. And usually what happens is, what I found, especially in the firms I've been working with the last few months, when there's been people leaving, that it can look negative, it's actually opened opportunity of, well, is this the role we want to hire? Like, so if we have an open budget, how do we step back and go, if we could redesign what we need in this department, is it that same role, or do we elevate someone else and bring someone in at a lower level, or do we get a expert in sales tax or inventory software, whatever, that maybe we're lacking on this team right now? So it gives you rather than looking at a negative, it really gives you the opportunity to kind of restructure the job descriptions that you wouldn't have if no one left.
Right.
And so, and that's where, coming back to transparency and leadership and so forth, the conversation can be very positive. Is like, although we're really sad that Amy decided to leave, X firm, I would like your feedback right now. What do you think we need? We have this open position, and ask the staff that are closest to the clients of, like, what kind of help do you need besides the work? Like, what is hanging you up? What's causing you to get in the way of you getting work done? And what kind of skill set could we hire in that might be helpful for the entire department, and allow it to be a brainstorming innovation opportunity that turns it into a positive.
And again, shows respect for the people that are, the survivors, which we don't want to call them, but the people that are surviving the death of this position. They get to sort of say now, what opportunity to revise, reshape, or reorganize could we take? And they feel respected by that request. Hey, what input do you have here? What ideas do you have before we just go out and replace a peer-to-peer, same? Should we make any changes or think about this any differently? And I do think your people have opinions about that. And I think they're closest to it. Sometimes we act like as leaders, we need to just go off in a corner, deal with all the ugly and bad by ourselves silently, try to hide it, which it never is hidden, and then solve all the problems before we talk to anybody else and come out with here's so-and-so has left and here's our solution.
Yeah.
And sometimes the staff are like, I'm sad so-and-so left, and oh my gosh, I don't believe that solution is the best one. Right. But they don't feel like they can really input to it. So I love what you said there about including them and saying, let's take this as an opportunity to step back. That's how you could position it as a leader. we want to take this as an opportunity to step back and get your input on really how we're organized and what we could shift here before we make any hires in case we need to maybe split this position into two, or like you said, make it more narrow and more technical, expert in a certain thing or whatever. And I think that that's a great way of getting them bought into the future too. They start dreaming about the future of this team together and taking ownership of it, feeling part of that, versus, I'm just like a bystander watching all this madness happen.
Yeah. And there's just one more thing. I know we're running out of time, but it's a pet peeve of mine during this process is the only time someone listens to feedback is on the exit interview. And normally that feedback that's given during the exit interview has been tried to be given throughout that person doing performance reviews or annual reviews, or you've heard it through the grapevine. But when someone leaves and it's documented, all of a sudden people pay attention to it. And it always makes me sad. It's almost like you go to a funeral and you hear about this person that died and you're like, wow, I didn't even know they did all those great things, or, and they're not here to talk about it anymore. And I just feel like that exit interview, it is important to take it seriously so you correct things going forward. But I think as a leader, did you step back and go, did I know this already? And did I action it before? And what could I do with the people that I have right now to action it today, so that they don't feel like they have to quit in order to have a voice? And that's, I don't know, it's just a pet peeve in this process.
I love it. And like right now, some of you are finishing one super busy period, maybe not completely finished yet, but you're going to be finishing it in the next month. And when we get into that tiny lull, which is not a lull, it's just still a flood of work, but not as crazy, it's a good time to ask, what one thing would you change before we hit the next busy period? What one thing would you change?
Do your exit interviews during the time that they work there.
But we don't have to open up all the things that you would change.
Right,
we ask the person, what one thing would you change?
Feedback.
Yeah, I love that. What one thing would you change, and how can I help you?
Yeah.
I mean, that's it before they're gone. It's like a health diagnostic before the death, right?
Right.
Like you could, if
wellness checks.
Exactly. So, I love it. And we are at time. So we'll continue these discussions. I think we probably could talk about other things to retain people maybe next time, because we are seeing a decent amount of turnover in the segment that we serve. So we'll do that next time. We'll put that on the list. And if you have ideas, please let us know. Otherwise, I know Amy and I are really grateful that you tuned in today. And we look forward to being with you next Friday for another Leadership Lunch Chat. Thanks, everybody.